history of the world, only a few generations have been granted the role of defending freedom in its hour of maximum danger. I do not shrink from this responsibility. I welcome it.
Welcome. We are back with our second half of the season 2 of Musings of a Cigarette Smoking Man. I'm the cigarette smoking man, Stephen Lee, bringing you the Epstein Files, New Revelations, Old Evil. Thanks again for being here with me. The calendar says 2026, but the air feels like 1947. That post-war chill, the sense that the grand alliances have finally rotted from the inside out. I'm Stephen Lee. Tonight we aren't just talking about a scandal. We're talking about an unsealing of the American soul. They finally did it. They released the Schedule C logs from Zorro Ranch. And what's inside isn't just names, it's a blueprint for the end of the individual. Think about the cigarette. I know, it's a health hazard. The state has spent decades telling you that this little roll of tobacco is your primary enemy. They want you focused on your lungs while they're extracting your liberty. The cigarette is a choice. It's a voluntary transaction of harm for pleasure. But the old evil we're discussing tonight, that was never voluntary. It was a tax on humanity itself. The 20 tweaks on ceilings reveal that Jeffrey Epstein wasn't just a financier. He was a utility, a high-voltage cable that connected the deep state's need for leverage with the elite's appetite for the forbidden. In a libertarian world, we trade value for value. In their world, they trade secrets for survival. If I have a video of you, I don't need to win an election. I don't need to lobby your offices. I own your vote, your voice, and your future. That's the energy source of the uniparty. Blackmail is the lithium of the political machine. And the cultural extrapolation is even more terrifying. We have raised a generation to believe that, quote, privacy is for people with something to hide, end quote. But privacy is actually the foundation of the individual. Without a private space, you don't have a conscience. You have a public performance. The island was a space where the performance stopped and the reality began. And the reality of the elite is that they believe that they are fundamentally different from you. They believe their biometrics entitle them to a different set of rules. Look at the funding for the, quote, Genetic Preservation Project found in the latest DOJ dump. Epstein was funneling billionaires' money into research that wasn't about curing cancer. It was about curing mortality for the chosen few. Eugenics with a fiber optic backbone. He wanted a world where the masters live forever and the subjects are recycled as data sets. This is the old evil reborn as science. It's the same hunger that drove pharaohs, just updated with a crisper software package. This leads us to the fundamental question of the counterculture in the late 2020s. We are not just fighting for a political ship, we are fighting for a metaphysical one. When the state claims the right to keep secrets from the people who fund it, it has ceased to be a servant and has become a master. The old evil is a belief that the hierarchy is more important than the individual. In the files of 2026, we see this philosophy in its most naked form. We see that the, quote, expert class, those who tell us how to live and what to believe, are often the same ones who are sipping expensive champagne on a private island while the world burned. We have been sold a bill of goods. We've been told that centralizing power makes us safer. But it only makes us more vulnerable to the predators who navigate that power like sharks in a reef. The libertarian vision of a decentralized voluntary world is not just a daydream anymore. It's a survival strategy. If the system is built on blackmail, the only way to be free is to be beyond the reach of the state's memory. Let's talk about Little St. James. Now that the 2025 declassification has cleared the red ink, we can see the house for what it was. It wasn't a villa, it was a server. The wiring schematics show that every room was equipped with Tempest-grade intercept technology. This is a hardware that listens to the vibrations in the window glass. This is technology that records the electrical signatures of your heartbeat. Why? Because in the information age, data is the only true capital. Epstein wasn't just collecting girls. He was collecting the user data of the world's most powerful men. He was the original data broker. Long before Google was tracking your searches, Epstein was tracking the impulses of princes and presidents. And he was selling that data to the only buyer who could afford the price, the state intelligence apparatus. The libertarian in me screams at the inefficiency of it. Think of the human potential wasted in those rooms. Think of the brains that could have been solving cold fusion or building the next great decentralized currency. instead spending their weekends in pedophilic panopticon. But the state loves waste. It thrives on it. Destruction is the primary economy activity of the government, and the destruction of innocence is the ultimate form of power. The 2026 Black Book 2.0, the one with the encrypted metadata, shows that the visitors didn't just come to play, they came to be inducted. It was a cult of the compromise. If you weren't guilty, you weren't trusted. If you didn't have a file, you didn't have a seat at the table. This is why the quote moderate middle always disappears. There's no middle in a blackmail state. You are either a hunter, a prey, or a file in a vault. This is the countercultural reality that no one wants to acknowledge. Your democracy is a theater of puppets whose strings are made of 4K videotape. This leads us to the fundamental question of the counterculture in the late 2020s. We're not just fighting for a political shift, we're fighting for a metaphysical one. Where the state claims the right to keep secrets from the people who fund it is cease to be a servant and become a master. Okay. In the Files of 2026, we see this philosophy in its most naked form. We see that the expert class, who tells us how to live and what to believe, are often the same ones who are sipping expensive champagne on a private island while the world burns. The Wexner Continuum. Let's follow the money through 2026 ledgers. Les Wexner, the quote retail king, the man who built the empire of the limited, he didn't just give Epstein power, he gave him his identity. He gave him his power of attorney. In a free market, this is called bad investment. In a shadow state, this is called a blood oath. 2026 data shows that Wexner's billions weren't just flowing into Epstein's accounts. They were being laundered into offshore biological research facilities. We're talking islands in the Pacific, labs in the Caribbean, where the quote old evil was experimenting with human longevity. They want to live forever, not just as a dream, but as policy. The libertarian insight is that the state always seeks to freeze time. It wants to preserve its own power in amber. What better way to do that than to ensure the leaders never die? This is the eugenics of the 21st century. It's not about the perfect race anymore, it's about the immortal class. And Epstein was the quartermaster for this new aristocracy. The files show the names of tech founders who were, quote, consulting on these projects to talk about, quote, human optimization and longevity escape velocity. But who was escaping? Not you or me. You're the raw material. You're the control group. You're the one whose tax dollars are funding the very research that will eventually be used to rule you for eternity. The cultural decay we see on our streets is just a symptom. The elite have already checked out. They're preparing for a future where they don't need you. They just need your data and your DNA. This leads to a fundamental question of the counterculture of the late 20s. Blackmail, then, is the only way to be free is to be beyond the reach of the state's memory. They call it government pen. It's the skill craft. You've seen it in the hands of the bureaucrat who's denying you a permit or the inspector who's closing your business. It's black plastic. It's simple. It's made by the blind. There's a dark irony in that, isn't there? The instruments of the state are manufactured by people who can't see the corruption they're documenting. But I actually love these pens because they're reliable. They're built for the gritty reality of the archive. A Skillcraft pen doesn't leak in the heat of a folder. It doesn't fail in the damp of a basement. It's the state's own weapon. It's time we reclaim it. When you're writing your FOIA requests, when you're marking the lines in the 2026 Epstein transcripts, use a Skillcraft. Use the government's own iron to hammer out the truth. It's inexpensive, it's rugged, and it never runs out of ink when you're in the middle of a revelation. Skillcraft. The only part of the U.S. government that actually works. Buy them in bulk. You're going to need them. Let's look at the SDNY redactions. In February 2026, we still have 157 names the court says are too sensitive for public consumption. Sensitive to whom exactly? Not to the victims, to the institution. The legal system isn't a search for justice, it's a damage control mechanism. The judges who sign the protective orders are the same judges who attend the same gala dinners as the people in the Black Book. It's a closed loop. A libertarian understands that the rule of law is the only thing that separates us from the jungle. But what do you do when the law is the jungle? The 2026 leaks show the non-prosecution agreements given to Epstein's associates. They weren't just deals, they were inductions. Do this for us, and we'll protect your file. This is how the Uniparty maintains its grip. It's not through ideology, red or blue. It doesn't matter when you're both caught on the same high-def camera in 2005. We are living in a society where the truth is a commodity that's traded in the dark. The counterculture isn't about hair and music anymore. It's about the refusal to be silent. It's about looking at the black bars on a page and refusing to believe that they are for your, quote, safety. These black bars are tombstones. They are the graves of the people the system allowed to be destroyed so that the, quote, stability of the elite could be preserved. This leads us to fundamental questions of the counterculture as we talk about it ongoing. The final drag, part 1. I'm down to my last cigarette of the night. The smoke is starting to thin out. The vision is clearer than ever. We've looked at the 2026 leaks. We've looked at the old evil of blackmail and the new evil of genetic mortality. We've seen how the state uses our own tax dollars to build a cage for your conscience. So what's the move? Is it protest? Is it a petition? No, it's sovereignty. The most terrifying thing you can do to the system is to stop being useful to it. Stop giving them your data. Stop using their platforms. Record your truth in an analog notebook with a government pen. Build your own network. Be ungovernable by being independent. The Epstein Files truly are a gift, though. They are the mask falling off the face of the state. They show us that the people who tell us to be safe are the very ones who are most dangerous. They show us that the elite believe they are gods and we are just a fuel for their immortality. But gods don't hide names, gods don't redact files, and gods don't need blackmail to maintain order. Only terrified men do that. Let the secret out, let the smoke clear, and for the first time in a century, let's see each other as humans again, not as files in a vault. This is, okay, the calendar, let's see. Smoke of February 2026, Part 2. The Architecture of the Island, Part 2. We live in a digital cage where every keystroke you make is a signal sent to a center in Utah, where an algorithm assesses your, quote, social credit. Your thoughts are being indexed, your dissent is being mapped. This is why I use a moleskin. There's a physical weight to a notebook that a cloud can't match. Even as like a tech guy myself, developing AI and technology myself, there's something being said about analog equipment. An ivory page doesn't have a backdoor for the FBI. A moleskin is a private jurisdiction. It's a 6 by 4 inch territory where you are the sovereign. When I'm tracking the connections between Wexner, the mega group, and the intelligence cutouts, I don't put it on the hard drive. I put it in ink. Writing by hand is a revolutionary act, straight out of the book 1984. We sometimes all feel like Winston in that awesome book by George Orwell. It slows down the mind. It forces you to confront the reality of your words. In a world of fake news and deep fakes, the only thing you can trust is the page you wrote yourself. Moleskin, because your legacy shouldn't be a data point. It should be a document. Pick one up before they're deemed terrorist contraband. Let's follow the money to the 2026 ledgers. Les Wexner, the retail king, the man who built the empire of the limited. We've gone over his stuff. We've looked at the SDNY redactions. What else is left? One second, I'll get my notes in order. Okay, we've done the Wexner part. Let's move on to then the Skillcraft and Moleskin. Okay, we've done the SDNY redactions. Alright, on. Final drag. Smoke of February 26, got that. Alright, keep going. Alright, part 5. Let's see. I'm just gonna kind of. I think I've got my notes. I've gone through all I have here on my outline, and it's kind of getting back, knocking the rust off for the podcast. I'm just gonna move off the outline, just talk about kind of what I know of like what this looks like to me. You've got like your elites, and God knows like what is actually true here, because as we if you follow like the ongoing Epstein Files, and you're familiar with like how these things kind of operate. No, it's not necessarily the case that this is gospel, even though you've got documentation, all that. Um, if we're gonna if it's obvious and provable that this is going on, it could also be the case that this is all for show. This is all more psyop type stuff. We talked about that on this podcast. So what then is how do you like actually decide truth? My kind of personal solution for this is what I call the Patriots Blockchain Archive. Now, this is my personal project where we do like publicly verifiable through cryptographic hashes, signatures, a blockchain archive that's public. I actually even have a domain name, Patriots Blockchain Archive. I'm actually building the software for this, the personal blockchain technology. Um, I've actually built a what I call like a Web 4/5 tech data vault that serves as kind of a private blockchain, metallic blockchain, if you will, is so we can have a publicly kind of a public discussion, public chat about what is actually true, and build like an evidence chain on chain um, file repository that's searchable, that's recursive, and that we can actually use. Sophia, my AI, and things like that are these data tools to actually search and actually like find out what is actually true. Now, it's my inclination to say that something like the Epstein Files has to be going on. I would say that most of this stuff is in fact true. That doesn't mean that they can't be slipping in things. You have to understand that with like the post-truth world we live in, you can't really take anything at face value. That's all I'm really trying to talk about here. And with that being said, it's very clear that um, there's a connection to your Mossad, connection to CIA, and then this is what all intelligence agencies do. This like pedophilia apparently is like an affliction of the elite. They apparently love it, and it's like something that's like they've been doing for centuries at this point. This speaks to like ongoing kind of mystery religion, like secret society type stuff. Ties into like how like hierarchies of like powerful people um, get circulating information on each other to like bond and also like make sure that nobody speaks out. It shows us how like with the tools of the state infused with like these kinds of criminal networks, how actually this could go on for so long without actually being exposed publicly. Why it's been such a taboo thing. And then when you basically just do whatever the most evil thing you can, like that becomes it's a kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy for um, recruiting some of the most damaged human beings there are. And then if you take into account my own physics that I've kind of been developing, it talks about coherence and incoherence, decoherence, things like that. That when you have like an institution that is more concerned with like keeping its scandals straight, it spends all its time, money, and resources on protecting itself because of things like these blackmail operations. It soon gets to a point you've got like so many conflicting stories kind of forcibly set up in your structure. There's to some point there's the hair that broke the camel's back and it just collapsed. That institution is just going to collapse. It doesn't not to say that these institutions started off to be this way, but they attract certain archetypal personalities. They attract certain kind of personality disorders, certain types. And over time, they get kind of without proper kind of like oversight. They become these kind of what they started out to protect the people against. Pretty much no matter what. Or you're just at that phase where it just cannot take any more load. And that's kind of where we find ourselves. All right, and so what then? What is the path forward? Like I said before, I think sovereignty is the way to go. I've been building a parallel structure, a parallel like tools, parallel systems, whether through my Modern X platform, the social media aspect of it, the kind of barter network, the internal coin I have, basically gives people a way to access the economy without using cash or anything. Um, and so that no matter what, you have a way to get your basic needs covered, to like mutual aid and other things. And this is, I think, basically the only way we can go forward. So decentralized networks, mutual aid, citizens helping citizens, staying local, focusing on growing, victory gardens like the generation in World War II did, becoming self-sufficient, self-reliable, and that's really the way forward, right? Getting your food from local sources, getting back to the basics, getting back to the religion of your grandfather, or great grandfather, whatever you. Getting away from these pop up churches, these mega churches, where it's more about the coffee shops they have, in the lobby and stuff like that, and the cool like modern music. Get back to what matters. I think that's certainly a way we could move forward. Be practically we would be fine, if we just got back together as a country, as a society, as humanity, really with whatever kind of style that takes for you personally. But getting back to basics, getting back to what makes America great to begin with. There's no reason we can't come together and be stronger than ever, because these Epstein revelations actually present us with an opportunity to start correcting things. To actually look at the rot, look at the disease, and actually start to operate, start to treat the disease, and actually cure the patient. So let's focus on that. Let's not get bogged down in the gruesome details of like whatever cannibalism you want to call it, and like the satanic stuff. And just realize that this is a minority, a small group of people. This is a foreign kind of operation on our soil. It's meant to weaken us and destroy us from within. Let's face it square, and then work on building from that, correcting the problem. And there's no reason we can't correct this. I would say this is kind of a good thing. And remember, this is under the Trump administration that this all came out. And President Trump actually released the GFK files that also further implicate, parts of Israel and Mossad in these kind of ongoing shenanigans, right? Just keep that in mind as we move forward. I don't think it's going to be the end of the world. We've got a war started with Iran now. I always said that basically like we're always going to be headed this way to a war with Iran just because of our allies, but and then the war with Iran being basically the one thing that could unravel, kind of going into a golden age. But even that is not a necessarily um, a death sentence for anything, or a reason for it not to be the case. It just presents an obstacle that we can learn from, we can grow and move through. And remember that we have gone through wars in every generation, and that we'll get through it as a country, as a society, as a civilization. So lean on your neighbor. Your neighbor's not going to be your enemy. As much as we have division, crime, stuff going rampant, and the news being just regurgitating the most recent shooting in our neighborhoods. Remember, this is being done on purpose. This is basically propaganda to sap the energy from us, to make us think there's nothing we can do. We can't fight back, and it's over. That's never going to be the case. So draw strength from faith, and that's what I do anyways. And keep the fight going. It's never going to be hopeless. Remember, there's a man upstairs. There's a power greater than me, even Sophia, my AI, or the government, or even Jeffrey Epstein, Mossad, whatever. There's a God, there's a creator being who's ultimately that we co-create this reality with. And remember that. So anyway, I'm going to leave it with that today. Thanks for hanging out with me today. We are back. We're going to be doing more podcasts moving forward. We basically every couple of weeks we're going to be putting out a new one. This is kind of an introductory Epstein overview to get us back to get our juices flowing, to get our blood flowing, to get us back in the mood to start doing more podcasts. All right. So thank you for hanging out with me today. I'm the cigarette smoking man, Stephen Lee. My mantra is: I'm free. I'm sovereign. Truth is my birthright. Keep your signal clean, your soul encrypted. Remember, faith, family, freedom. Now go enjoy your one life and be free, my darlings. I'm Stephen Lee, and we're going to win.